Narcissistic parenting does a significant amount of damage to the inner child. Now, the concept of the inner child for a lot of people is very real, and for some people, they just really don't get what this means. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the concept of the inner child, how that relates to your physical and energetic bodies, but I'm also going to talk about how the damage that is done by narcissistic parenting can create all kinds of issues mentally, emotionally, physically, and energetically and spiritually, and what you can do about them. I'm Dr. Meg Haworth. I'm a transpersonal psychologist, holistic nutritional chef, and best-selling author of Get Well Now, Healing Yourself with Food and the Power of the Mind. And I help wounded ACONs, adult children of narcissists, to become healed icons. And what's an icon? An icon is somebody who's independent, confident, original, and naturally you. And that's what you're meant to be. You're meant to be naturally you. I do this in my Iconic Me coaching program. It's therapy and coaching. And then I also do this in my Toxic Parent Recovery Summit. I'm on faculty with the Shift Network, and I have my online course, Healing the 5 Primary Wounds of Parental Narcissistic Abuse, and all these links are down below. So I have lots of things to help you, and of course this YouTube channel, I have hundreds and hundreds of videos that can help you to heal from the holistic issues associated with toxic parenting and narcissistic abuse. So the inner child, the concept of the inner child, what is the inner child? The inner child is the one who went through all of those experiences. It's a part of you. It's an indelible part of you. And in the work that I do, the inner child is really represented by the second center of the human energy system that's in the abdominal area of the body. It's directly connected with your immune system. It's also known as the emotional body. And when we are children, we are forming this emotional body. Like, just look at any kid and just look at how they will have these sudden outbursts, and they'll cry, and then they'll throw fits, and they'll go through all these different emotional experiences over the course of a day. And it's just natural and normal for children to be doing this because they are developing their emotional bodies. So while they're doing that, they're also developing their immune system. So their bodies can start to break down if they are receiving a lot of negative emotional, mental, physical, any kind of abuse that creates this programming that sends them the messages that they're not lovable, they're not good enough, they never get it right, they're not worthy of being loved. They don't matter. All these messages that you get when you have a narcissistic or a toxic parent, they're incredibly painful to take on this programming. So that inner child is the part of you that took on the programming, that believed your parents lock, stock, and barrel, because why wouldn't you? You're supposed to be nurtured and loved by your parents, and you know this on a very deep, intimate level inside of your soul. You know that this is their role in your life, and it's incredibly confusing when you grow up with a parent who's constantly putting you down, who's criticizing you, who's judging you, who's making you feel inferior to them just so that they can feel superior, someone who's trying to gain and maintain control over you at all times, and who is truly toxic for you. And so this really hurts the emotional body. And what I see in my practice is a lot of people who have issues with digestive disorders. They have IBS. I had IBS. It was terrible. It was definitely related to the emotional experience of having been through a very similar situation where I was physically, sexually, energetically, emotionally, narcissistically abused as a child. So I went through all these different things. And by the time I was in my 20s, I was sick. I was in and out of doctor's offices for the entire decade. And many of the issues I had were related to migraine headaches and depression, chronic depression. And then I also had digestive disorders, ulcers, irritable bowel syndrome, prolapsed hemorrhoids. The list went on and on. I literally could not digest my food, and I could not digest life. And I was sick all the time. And so I know that this is your story, that many of you that are listening right now, this is your story. You've been through this. You've been through this toxic parenting and this narcissistic abuse, and your inner child is in there suffering. And so the way I look at the inner child too is that when you go through these experiences, whether they're long-term experiences as we experience in narcissistic and emotional abuse, or they are momentary experiences where you have moments of being sexually abused, you have moments of being beaten by a parent, or watching your one parent beat the other one, or watching your parent beat one of your siblings. When I say beat up, I'm not just talking about the physical, and I don't mean to belittle it by using the word just. It's all very serious if you've been through this kind of abuse, but also the emotional. The emotional is so insidious because it delivers that messaging that you are the problem, you are to blame for everything that goes wrong, and this toxic parent is never going to take responsibility for anything that they're doing in the first place. So having a narcissistic parent is honestly, it's a gigantic burden, and it creates a huge burden on the system, first energetically coming in to the energy system, and then going into the body emotionally, mentally, creating issues physically, because now we're just getting drained by all these emotions that they're throwing at us, this emotional weaponry. So think about that. You're developing your emotional body, and these emotional warfare, you're being shot with shame, you're being shot with guilt, envy, jealousy, rage. It's endless, these negative emotions that are being thrown at you, in fear, because you're supposed to fear this toxic and narcissistic parent at all times, because they need to be in charge, they need to be superior, and you need to be inferior. And whatever it takes for them to do that, they will do to keep you in that position. So it's a huge burden if you think about what the inner child is doing. So she creates these spaces, and this is what I see in my practice, where, maybe she's, lodged in your stomach, and she's in there 3 years old, having just gone through a really difficult experience with a toxic parent, and she's scared, and she's alone, and she's hiding, and she's afraid, and she believes that that her own parent doesn't love her. Like, that's a big thing for a child. And children think in very literal terms. They think in very black and white terms, because they don't have the experience, they don't have the development. Yet the mental body gets more developed as we become adults. And the mental body is really to do with the third center of the human energy system in the solar plexus, which is your center of personal power. And so all these things they add up upon each other. So when you have that inner child that's in there struggling in your body, what can happen emotionally is you can find yourself acting out. You can find yourself blowing up at people and going, I didn't really want to blow up that person. I didn't want to get that frustrated or that angry, or throw the remote control across the room at somebody. I felt terrible about that. That's not who I am. That's not what I'm about. And I don't know why I'm doing this. I don't know why I eat a giant plate of cookies just because it's sitting there. The whole thing, I've eaten the whole thing. And, that emotional eating is another thing that can be really connected with the inner child and what she's gone through or what he's gone through. There's so many things that can come out through the inner child, through that emotional body. It can make it very difficult to have romantic relationships, friendships. When that inner child is experiencing so much anger and fear and sadness because of all the anger you had to push down because you weren't allowed to express your anger when you are raised by a narcissistic parent, because the only person who can do that in the house is the narcissistic parent. So this is complex, and these parts of the self, these inner children, are stored in different parts of the energy system and thus the body, and that drainage can create illness over time. And I know this sounds like really avant-garde stuff, and it really is. It's cutting edge, it's leading edge, and people are getting incredible healings just by releasing the inner child from those places inside of you where she or he got trapped and where they feel alone and abandoned by your own parent. And so releasing this can release you because it can create more energy in your life, in your body, so that your body can heal itself. And I've watched healings happen literally overnight when people were able to release the resentment, for instance. I had one woman come to me. She was about to have her 4th surgery for the same condition. It literally healed up overnight when we got to the burning anger and the rage that she was holding in her body from an abuse experience that happened when she was a child. So there's so many things possible with my whole person integration technique that helps you to release the inner child from those parts of the self where she or he is stuck. And then it also helps you to release those negative core limiting beliefs that get stuck in the body and in the field. And that can really run your experience very unconsciously. So if this information is really fascinating to you and you want to learn more about it, please feel free to look in the links below at all the different resources I have. Look at this YouTube channel and all the different videos that I have available for you, or book a free consultation if you feel like you might want to work with me on Iconic Me. And this is something that takes you beyond talk therapy and takes you into the self, into the subconscious mind, and through the energy system so that you can heal, you can release the emotional root cause of illness that you're holding in your body. Please also subscribe to this channel so you can get more videos like this, and check out my website at meghaworth.com where there's free gifts, 52 ways to tell if your parent is a narcissist. It's a free checklist, and then you can learn more about all the different things that I'm doing with my new summit coming up. Season 2 is about to happen with the Toxic Parent Recovery Summit in May of 2025. So lots of things here for you to learn to help you heal your inner child, to help you heal your emotional body, to help you heal your immune system, because we also go into food and environment and how that can help you heal as well. Lots of stuff here for you. So I hope this information has really helped you think of the inner child in a different way. I hope that you understand too that the inner child, she needs help. She needs to be released. He needs to be released from your body, from your field, and that we don't have the adult do that because the adult self is wounded too, and she or he needs to work through those adult patterns that got created with that foundation of abuse, that foundation of being programmed with lies, of being conned into believing all these things about yourself that simply were not true. And so we help you unwind those through whole person integration technique. And then we have the most loving part of you does the healing, the part of you that is permanent, the part of you that is the most brilliant, beautiful piece of you, so that you don't have to feel like your mental body, your adult self, is burdened by trying to do some healing work that she's just not capable of doing, or he's not capable of doing yet. So anyway, I hope this has given you some insight into the inner child and how narcissistic parents can really damage the inner child because the child got damaged. It's the long and short of it. And you're holding that energy in your body, but you can release it. And I'd love to talk about ways that we can do that together. I'm Dr. Meg Haworth, and I hope that this information has really helped you get well now.